Good evening, everybody. So we are very happy to see all of you, and we see that people are joining our Thursday webinar sessions. And today we are again very glad to host Marhabo Kholmurodova, and she'll be talking today about strategies for improving students' listening skills. Welcome, Marhabo, to English Without Borders. We are very happy to see you, and we are very happy also just for our ongoing collaboration with you. So let me tell some words about our speaker today. Marhabo Kholmurodova has a BA in Linguistics, English and French languages from Khorog State University, Tajikistan, and has obtained a certificate of education from the Aga Khan University, Karachi, Pakistan. In 2018, she got a scholarship from the United States Department of State Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs to participate in Fulbright Teaching Excellence and Achievement Program, a 2-month fellowship at the University of Claremont, South California, USA. Currently, she's working with the School of Professional and Continuing Education under University of Central Asia, UCA, as an English language instructor and a teacher trainer, and she's involved in all the projects implemented by English Department of SPCE. Moreover, she has participated in a number of conferences. She won a scholarship to be a presenter at CATEC conference 2013 and made a presentation on critical thinking in English language learning and teaching. In addition, she is an English language coordinator of the Association of Teachers of GBAO. And additionally, she's a very active member of the English Without Borders, and she's always ready to stretch a helping hand to promote English Without Borders and also just support the new initiative in Tajikistan. So thanks, Marhabo, a lot. And now I encourage our participants who are joining us via Zoom or Facebook, please engage actively in the session and ask your questions to our speaker. Thank you. And now the floor is yours, Marhabo. Thanks.
Thank you so much, dear Nasiba. This is actually a great pleasure for me to be part of this project. I really like the project because the project is specifically for English language teachers, and we are so far we got really we didn't have let's say so many opportunities that this project is giving to all English language teachers today, and this is probably one of the reasons I consider myself as an active member of this project. Thank you so much, and welcome everybody. I hope you will enjoy today's session. So as Nasiba has mentioned, today's webinar is on helping students to improve their listening skills, and I will share my screen with you. Can you see my screen? Oh, can you see it? Okay, so listening or academic listening is something that I really like myself. I'm really into listening, and well, actually I teach all skills at SPCE, but this is something that I really like, and I enjoy, like I myself enjoy teaching listening very much. So recently I have I took part in one of the sessions, and basically the sessions were on different skills, but the one that I really liked, and again I'm into it, I wanted to cascade my knowledge with all the English language teachers here, and I want you to be very active and take part in this webinar, actively participate in this webinar. I would say that if I kind of make a statement like, for example, if I say listening is the most important skill, I know this is a very strong statement, but can I ask you to share your opinion in the chat? Can I ask you to tell people here, what do you think? Do you agree with me or you disagree, and tell me why you agree and why disagree? So I'll give you some time to think and to share your opinion in the chat. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you for your comments here and for your answers here. Well, I partly agree. Listening is really I partly agree. Listening is really important. A skill, because without active listening, understanding, you can't hold the communication with people. Thank you so much. It actually depends, but I would agree. Okay. Agree, it is the second most important skill after reading. Okay, the second. All right. This is from Gulnoro, and the first one was from Natir. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Okay, and the next is from Bakhti Begim. I think I do not agree that it is the most strong one, because we need to understand the information by denying the vocabulary, which is the part of reading. Okay, defining the vocabulary, which is the part of reading skill. All right. All right. I do not agree that it is the most strong one. The most important for me is speaking. Okay. Yes. Thank you for your answers. Yeah, I think, yeah. Okay. Please, any other answers? Can you share? Okay, I think even in learning our native language, we spend long months to listen to our parents before we start speaking. So Mavluda is saying, so Mavluda, I think you mean that, I think you agree with me. When if you were saying this, like, yes, so listening is important, is well, I said is the most important skill. You are mentioning that we before we listen, like before we speak, we listen to our parents, like when we learn how to speak. Okay, thank you so much. We are not like I do agree with your opinion as well. I do agree with you as well. I'm not, I cannot say like you are wrong or I am wrong, but I think this is my own opinion about listening. For me, listening, and I think for students, listening is a bit tricky. That is why probably I kind of think that listening is the most important one. We cannot deny that all other skills are not important. They are all important. Thank you for those who shared their opinion. We cannot deny that all the other skills are not important. They are all important, but for example, if we think about reading, somebody said, I think Gulnoro said that second after reading. If we think about reading, we can come back to it. We can read it again. But if we compare this to listening, we play a lecture in the class, and during the exam, for example, students can only listen to a lecture once or twice, that's it. But the reading, for instance, they have it with them, and they can go back to the paragraphs and check again. Or if we think about writing, for example, writing, if we think that we did something wrong, we can erase it, and we can kind of add something new. We can add it. If we talk about listening, why I say that it is the most important skill, because if you misunderstood something, if you misunderstood something, you won't be able to listen again. So I mean, when you are in an actual exam, you won't be able to listen again. So that's one why. Or if you are in a lecture, for instance, and you every time you ask the teacher or the lecturer to repeat something for you, I think this is kind of like, you will probably ask once, twice, and then you will stop asking the lecturer to repeat something for you. Maybe this is something that we need to, when teaching all the skills, I think this is listening is something that we need to put focus on when teaching it. This is what I mean. Thanks for your ideas. So if we move on to the next slide, why is academic listening important? Well, I gave some examples and compared listening to all other skills. And here I have got some other ideas, like why is academic listening important, that were also shared with me when I was participating in an online training, and wanted to share with you as well. So why it is important? Because it here you can see that, for example, if you listen to a lecture and you grasp everything from the lecture, you will be able to communicate. You will be able to contribute to discussions. If we look at the second one, so this will create ability to communicate. You will have many things to say. Understand, learn, and discuss new ideas. After you listen to a lecture, for example, you will be able to, and if you understand it, that's why I said that listening is a bit tricky, because our students face difficulties to listen to. When they listen and they face difficulties, they encounter difficulties with understanding the lectures, and then they do not contribute to the discussion. So after we listen to a lecture, we ask students to discuss, right? And then they feel they kind of cannot contribute because they didn't understand. But if we are able to listen, if we can grasp the information from the lectures, we will be able to discuss new ideas. We will be able to learn something from the lecture. We learn, and then we use our knowledge, our own knowledge. We integrate our knowledge with the new information from the lectures, and then we share it with the class or with our group mates, like people who we work in one group with. Taking efficient notes. So this is the other thing that is why academic listening is important. We need to be able to take efficient notes. So when listening to lectures, we don't just listen, or our students. We usually, what I do, like the way I teach it, I ask my students to listen to a lecture, I play a lecture. Then of course there are some note-taking strategies that I usually share with my students, and then they take notes. So why do they take notes? Because they will have to answer questions, they will have to complete an exercise after they listen to a lecture. So it is really important to take efficient notes, to take accurate notes, so that the students are able to answer the questions and complete the task or the assignment. And the other thing that why academic listening or listening is important, because it can also help or it can also help students to enhance their critical thinking. For example, when students listen, they will start questioning, and they will question themselves. They will say, like, is this true, or is this false, or do I understand, or do I need to find more information about this? Like, they annotate, and they question themselves, and they try to do some research and to find more information on that. If you have any comments, you can write in the chart. Chart. Okay. Next slide. I will here what we usually do in class, like we listen for, there are three types of listening we usually do with our students. Doesn't matter, can be academic English or conversational English. We ask our students to listen for gist. So there is listening for gist, listening for specific information, and listening for detailed information. So can I ask you to pick, can you pick one of these, or one that you like? Just pick one and tell me, or type in the chart. Type in the chart. What do you think one of these are? Like, what is listening for gist? What is listening for specific information? And what is listening for detailed information? Can you please share your opinion in the chart? Okay, general info. What do you mean? Okay, general idea, concrete facts. Can you first write which one? For example, you write gist and then you explain how do you understand gist? What is listening for gist? What is listening for specific information, and what is listening for detailed information? Okay, Mavluda is saying that listening for gist is understanding the general information of the text. Yes. Okay, thank you. Skimming and scanning, yes. And details, just getting general idea. Thank you so much. Specific, or yeah, finding concrete facts. Listening for specific, like for listening for specific information. Yes. dates, numbers. Thank you so much. Yes, Navluda, specific information in addition to what Natir has mentioned. Numbers, names, details are details. Okay, what are the details? Listening for detailed information, details. All right, thank you. Dates, yes, it can be names. If we ask our students to listen for specific information, that can be dates, date, time, names of people, names of places, detailed information for in-depth in understanding. Yes, thank you, Nasiba. Right, full information. Yeah, listening for detailed information, it means we ask our students to listen for full information, like we encourage them to focus on everything, that is that is said in this listening. Short information about something. Okay, it is not very clear. What are you, Asanzoda Islam, what are you defining? Okay, short information about something. So thank you so much. Let's conclude it. And so listening for gist, people who shared, thank you very much, colleagues, for sharing your ideas. Here, listening for gist, when we ask our students to listen for a gist, we mean listening for main ideas, for the main idea. So we can ask our students to make a summary of what is the whole lecture about. Listening for specific information, as you have mentioned, it is listening for dates, numbers, names of people, names of places. We ask students to find very specific, exact information from the listening. And listening for detailed information, here we ask our students to give us, or to try to listen for full information, try to focus on everything being said in the listening. Okay, so thank you so much. Next, I'm going to play a short video now, and let's practice listening for the gist. So I'm going to play this video. We listen. You please listen individually, and then try to write. It says 5 minutes lecture. You listen independently and write down 50 words summarizing the lecture. So we listen for gist, and you don't have to write 50 words. I think 30, 50, 25, okay. And then you post your response in the chat, okay? So let me share my screen. I hope you can hear.
This is Michael Faraday, one of the most important scientists of the Victorian age, basically responsible for electromagnetism and all the electrical equipment we have today. He was very poor when he was born. He was a blacksmith's son, and he worked as a bookbinder's apprentice, and at night he went home and read books. And one of the books that he read was a book called Conversations on Chemistry by a Swiss immigrant called Jane Marseille. And Conversations on Chemistry was translated into several European languages. It appeared in many editions, and it was the first introduction to science, not only of Michael Faraday, but also of many other scientists. And to his credit, he did always pay tribute to her until he died. So I think this is an excellent example of how influential these women educators were, even though in conventional histories of science, we never hear anything about them at all. He was also the rather younger contemporary of Mary Somerville, whom I mentioned earlier, the woman whose bust was was still on display at the Royal Society. She had a very successful career as a writer, a translator, scientific interpreter. She became known as the Queen of Science. And Charles Lyell was a very famous geologist. He was the man who was extremely influential on Charles Darwin when he was developing his theory of evolution. And he wrote to his fiancée, "Had our friend Mrs. Somerville been married to a mathematician, we should never have heard of her work. She would have merged it with her husband's and passed it off as his." And I agree, I think Lyell is absolutely right. But she did manage to do a lot of independent work on her own, and she did become very famous in her own right. But not as an originator of new knowledge, more as a translator, an interpreter, a communicator, the sort of person who's essential for passing on scientific information. I think it's a bit ironic that Charles Lyell should have written this to his fiancée, because that's precisely how he behaved to her. I looked for a picture of Mary Lyell. I couldn't find one. Whenever I looked on Google Images, I kept getting referred back to pictures of him. So I'm afraid I've just had to replace her with a silhouette. She's rather like Marie Lavoisier. When they were engaged, she learnt German. Their honeymoon trip was a field exploration trip for geology. She edited all his works. He had very short sight, so she did a lot of writing for him. She did the illustrations of his book, and she classified a lot of his collections. So, as evidence of this is what she wrote in a letter to her sister. "I have taught Antonia." Antonia was her maid, and I've shown these two women, Mary Lyell and Antonia, as black silhouettes because there's no surviving picture of them. "I've taught Antonia to kill snails and clean out the shells, and she is very expert." Shells and snails might not seem like a very important subject now, but in geology and biology of the 19th century, when Darwin was developing his theories of evolution, they're extremely important. So there was Mary Lyell contributing enormously to all of Charles Lyell's research projects.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can I ask you now to share, to write your opinion? I mean, the main idea of this, not your opinion, but sorry, the main idea of this lecture in the chart. I'll give you 2 minutes. Yeah, I have from Nasiba about women educators influences. Yeah, thank you so much. Bhakti Begim, the main idea is about women who influence on men who become prominent. Yes, thank you so much. Hope you are typing. Hope you are typing, and I hope to see your comments in the chat. Behind each successful man is a woman. Yes. Thank you. Yes, that's right. Okay, thank you so much. I have one more from Khairiniso. All right, one more minute. You share your opinion about Khairiniso is saying about the influential scientist who wrote the first introduction to the science. Okay, thank you so much. If please, it is okay even if you know you didn't understand the full lecture. Um, just try to share your summaries. Okay. Mhm. Hope to see more. Hope to get more summaries from you. Okay, thank you, Mavluda. The lecture is about Michael Faraday and his fiancée who contributed a lot to his work. Yes, most men do not usually mention the help of women at that time, but he admitted her hard work and contribution. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, it's actually, yeah. So if you are sending your messages, your summaries, please keep sending them. I will try to read, and I think, yeah, you guessed the main idea. You could understand the main idea of this 5-minute lecture, which, yes, talks about, some of you have mentioned, talks about women educators who contributed a lot into, let's say, science, but they were kind of, they remained unknown. And as the lecture, as she mentioned, she did a lot of writing for her husband, but they kind of remained behind their husbands. Yes, thank you so much. um, let's move on to the next slide now, and you can, send your summaries if you have. So when listening to lectures, when listening to academic lectures, intonation is very important. Uh, so that many students complain that they don't understand the lectures. It's just it's one of the reason, I think, and that I always tell my students, one of the reasons is they uh, do not fully understand, they do not pay attention to intonations. And intonation is very important because this, helps you to understand. If you understand intonations, it can help you understand the lecture as well, the listening as well. Vocabulary, what to pay attention to, also vocabulary. One is intonation, the other is vocabulary, and the last thing is, here I have visuals. So vocabulary is also very important for students and for all of us when we do listening. If we encounter words that we do not understand, if, for example, the lecture is about science and we we are not aware of the vocabulary about science, we will face sorry, will face difficulties because we won't be able to understand the lecture. So therefore, what we do, teachers, when teaching academic listening, we provide our students with, for instance, I know that my students will be listening to this lecture. So what I do, I give them the vocabulary. I work on the vocabulary with them before, so that when it comes to the lecture, they are well prepared and they take effective notes. Visuals can also help. Visuals can also help our students, and they can also help us to understand the lectures better. So these are the three things we and our students need to be very careful when listening to a lecture. In during the class and in actual exams also, when we see any visuals, when we see any word, we need to make associations with other words probably we know. Look at the roots and try to guess the words from the context. Pay attention to the visuals that are there, what we see. This can give us some clues of what is the lecture is going to be about. And like there is a question, but how do you teach it, or how do we teach it? How do we teach it? There are strategies that we actually use to teach these things. So one of the strategies that I very commonly used in my EAP listening and speaking module in my class is predict lecture topics. Before we listen to any lecture, I ask my students to predict. We predict, of course, based on what we know before the lecture. If the lecture is about, let's say, advertising in, let's say, in the US, advertising in US. In the US, we, before that, we do some reading. I try to enhance my students' background knowledge, try to help them to with some for example, articles. I give them some articles, my students read the articles, and then based on the articles, we write predictions. I ask them to work in pairs and write, for example, 2 prediction. What do they think? What do they expect to learn from the lecture? What is the lecture about? So this is a very effective strategy that I use in my class very often, and continue to engage with the topic. Of course, then we need to engage our students. It's not just one class lecture and that's it. We continue engage our students with that particular topic, and this helps them to develop their vocabulary. I also give them articles besides the articles from their books. I give them some other articles related to advertising, for example, and this can keep them engaged, and they learn more about that. Focus on stress words. The words during the lecture, the words are sometimes stressed. So the lecturers, what they do, they repeat. They repeat some words. They stress on the words, and they, for example, they repeat one word several times. This can also give students a hint that this, this lecture is about, if equality, for example, is repeated several times, then it can give the students a clue that the lecture is about that. Repeated terms and pauses. As we know, there are specialized terms for each reading we give, for the readings that we do in classes. If the reading is about football, or the lecture is about that, there are specialized terms that are only related to football, or only related to advertising, or only related to business. And these are very very often repeated during the lecture. So and also pauses. The lectures, they pause. And why do they pause? They pause, sometimes they pause because they finished one idea, and they use signals. They finish one idea and they start a new idea. So these are some of the listening strategies that I try to give my students before we do any kind of listening. There are many other listening strategies, but these are the ones that I implement in my class very often. Yeah, sorry. Next. Okay, if you have any comments, or if you want to add something, you are very much welcome to write it in the chat. The last slide that I would like to share with you today is taking it to the next level. As I have already mentioned, there are many other strategies that we can use to help our students to develop their listening skills. And these are some of them, like more advanced, I can say. Listening and reading. So listening and reading at the same time. Listening while note-taking. So for note-taking, we have, as I have already mentioned, we need to help our students to take efficient, effective, be able to take efficient and effective notes. It is not easy or to take notes while listening to a lecture. So of course there are strategies for that too, which are called note-taking strategies, using symbols and abbreviations and all these things. Listening for clues, like I said, when, for example, the words are repeated several times, or they pause, and we need to be able to find it and to be able to understand. Listening to multiple speakers, which is harder to do. being able to listen to several people talking at the same time, dealing with unknown vocabulary and thinking of a response. So this is actually what I wanted to share with you today. And if you have any questions, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your very active participation. And if you have any questions or comments, suggestions, recommendations, please do not hesitate, just share.
Yes, thank you very much, Marhabo, for such an interesting and informative webinar session. And engaging the participants in several activities, which was very interesting. So we have a number of questions from the audience. So let's vocalize them. So Muhammad Usmunyon, he has joined via Facebook, and he's asking, can you tell us about types of listening? What types of listening do you use?
Oh, well, types of listening, as I have mentioned, listening, I am really into listening, teaching academic listening. So, but we when we teach conversational English, we integrate listening as well. So we listen for what we do in academic listening. We ask students to listen for the gist, for specific and for detailed information. This is what we actually do in classes, and this is what I wanted to share with you. We listen to various different kinds of sources, like, for example, we listen to lectures, sometimes audio, sometimes dialogue, like interviews, and it depends.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We have a question from Parveen Sadiqa. She's asking, do you recommend audiobooks to your students, and why? Is it better than reading books?
I do not actually, I myself do not recommend audiobooks. I tried myself audiobooks, but I couldn't, when I listen to audiobooks, I lose my concentration. And then I stopped. What I did, I listened to a book. It took me a long time to listen to one book because I had to stop it after 15 minutes. Otherwise, I would just lose my concentration. So I don't usually suggest, but it depends what kind of listener you are. I prefer books to audio, real books to audio books. And but there are students who listen to audiobooks and they like it. So
thank you. Okay, we have a question from Natya. She's asking, what before, during, and after listening activities would you recommend?
Well, there are there are various types of activities, but what I usually do before, I use prediction, like the strategy that I have just shared with you. I ask my students to predict, or sometimes I ask them to if I give them any task before the listening, I ask them to do it and just try to predict and then check whether you were right or wrong. Then they listen. When we watch lectures, during the lecture we take notes, and after the lecture we answer questions. We complete as an exercise. We have questions and we try to answer the questions using our notes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So next question. Okay, so what strategies or techniques do you use teaching conversation English learners?
Sorry?
Oh yeah, so Nora is asking, from her experience teaching academic listening, note-taking used to be pretty challenging, As culture, we are not used to taking notes. What strategies or techniques do you use teaching conversational English learners? She means
Yes,
for note taking, yeah.
I do agree with Gulnoro. Note taking is, well, in our culture, we find reading and writing also challenging. All skills are challenging because we are simply not accustomed to writing, because we were not asked to do it probably, and reading as well, because I don't remember my mother reading a book for me before I go to bed, and listening as well. So all the skills students find really challenging. Yeah, I do agree. And for note taking, there are when teaching academic English, there are strategies for note taking. I give my students strategies like using symbols. So when note taking, you just save your time. You use abbreviations, using symbols. This is one of the techniques that can help students to help students to take effective notes. For conversational English learners, in conversational English, we usually do not have those, let's say, big problems that we encounter with listening in academic English. In conversational English, we usually deal with very short exercises, and I recommend my students to listen to podcasts, to listen to interviews when I teach in conversational English. Listening to podcasts, listening to short interviews, rather than in academic English. I ask my students, I do not ask them, I simply give them documentaries. I give them TED Talks, like more challenging things to do in comparison with conversational English. In conversational English, we also use, I personally use predicting a lot. I ask them to predict first and then listen and do the exercise.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much, Marhabo. We have next question. Bakhti Begim is asking, lectures are provided with different accents that is not clear for students. How do you deal with it?
Yeah, that's right. I think this is good when these are not only lectures. In conversational English, we also have different accents, and I think it has its purpose, because we need to, students need to be aware of this, that there is not only an American person who is delivering a lecture, or an English speaking, like an English person who is delivering a lecture, but there can be various lectures delivered by various lecturers, and I give them different, I give my students, I provide them with lectures with like different accents, that have different accents, so that the student get used to it, so that the student hear all types of accents. And another thing I do, I sometimes provide the script. I give them the script, but I give them the script with gaps. And they don't just listen and read, but they have to complete the gaps as well. So this is what I usually do from my own experience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marhabo. So there are, I'm just looking for more questions. Oh, okay. Natya is asking, so regarding her first question, yes, this is very often used strategy, and sometimes students get bored. So do you recommend anything else for students not to get bored doing listening activities?
Students, yeah, just a second. Yes, I do agree. I do agree with this. Students get bored, so when the lectures, when we do reading, for example, before we listen to something, we do reading. And what I usually do, I sometimes pause the lectures. If it is very long, I pause it. There are minutes where I pause it and where I bring some questions to students, and so that I keep them engaged. And the task completion, with the one that I mentioned with the gaps, can also help them to keep engaged in the lecture and not to fall asleep. Well, the lectures are not too long, but it can be about 11 minutes, 20 minutes. In class, well, if it is a real lecture, it will of course depend on the teacher, how the teacher motivates and engage the students. But what I do in classes, I pause the lectures and I give them questions. They discuss 2-3 questions, and again we continue. Or I can also, sometimes I pause the lecture, I ask them to discuss questions, and then I do play any game with them, and then we continue listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marhabo. So yeah, it's such a good discussion we had, and so many questions have been answered. So dear audience, please use this moment to ask your questions. Okay. So Marhabo, what do you recommend for young learners? So do you recommend to do more listening activities with young learners? Or it can be done, later on when they just learn about, when they get the elementary level skills of learning language?
No, I recommend to start listening from a very early age. This can really help them with intonation, and intonation is very, very important in terms of, like, when it comes to, to larger, bigger something, like longer, like the lectures. Intonation can help a lot. So I think the earlier we engage our kids and our students, the better it is for them.
Yeah, great, thank you. So if you have any more questions, dear audience, please use this moment. And again, let me remind that today we had Marhabo Kholmurodova, who delivered a very nice webinar on how to improve, and how to engage, how to start teaching listening skills, and she shared her own experience as well. So thank you, Marhabo, for your time, for your interesting session, and also for your support of the EVB network.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we know that today is your husband's birthday. On behalf of all the on behalf of all the people, please deliver our best wishes to him. And yes, from the whole EVB network, we say happy birthday
Thank
to
you.
him. And and I would
Thank
say
you
that,
so much.
if behind each successful man is a woman, I would say that behind each successful woman is a man too. So our best wishes to your husband as well.
Thank you so
thanks,
much.
Marhabo, and dear
Thank
audience. Dear audience, once again, a big thank you for all those who are attending our Thursday webinars and use this time for their professional development, and also just for learning something new and investing this time into their development, personal and professional development. Thanks a lot, everybody. Please do register for the English Without Borders conference as soon as possible, because the deadline is approaching, and save your spot to participate in the conference. And please stay tuned on us and follow us on social media, and